Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. Now, let's say you've been around Arena for a little bit now, and all of a sudden you got this little flashing icon up here, and you're like, hey, what is that about? Well, this is a little thing we call the Vault, and it is a way that all of those unneeded, unwanted cards add up and give you some wild cards that you're going to like. So today we're going to take a few minutes and talk about how to redeem that. It's super easy. And more importantly, what to do with those wild cards once you have them. So stay tuned.
But before we get into all that, what do you say we do the awkward thing and promote the channel? You see, I've set a goal of 1,000 subs by September of this year, and we've still got a long way to go. But what I realize is no matter how much content I put out or how good I think it is, I can't reach this goal without you. So take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel. And if you don't feel like you can subscribe yet, leave me a comment down below and let me know why so I can try and address your concern. You see, around here we try and be different because we think you matter as a member of the community. Just like all these fine folks that have chosen to join our community during the first quarter of this budget year and have also chosen to make their subscription public. There isn't a lot of support for this kind of content on YouTube, and I think we can make a change there. I think we can make this content and this community matter both on Arena and on YouTube. I know I can't, but I think we can. So please take this opportunity to consider joining our community and joining the fight for making our viewpoints matter. Now,
So redeeming the vault literally could not be easier. All you do is click on it and ta-da, this happens. Every time you fill the vault and redeem it, you get 1 mythic, 2 rares, and 3 uncommons. And typically what I recommend doing with these is investing them in a historic deck. But in this particular year, with Alchemy having just come out and it having changed the very nature of what historic is, I'm not sure that's the best way to use them. So at least for this year, I have a slightly different plan in mind. I'm going to go ahead and claim those up, and I'm going to drop into decks. And as you can see, I have a deck set up called Vault, which really isn't a deck at all. But it is a small list of cards which are going to kind of catapult me into having a better budget version of the mono white and mono green decks. We're going to pick up 2 copies of Usher of the Fallen and 1 copy of Blizzard Brawl. Why can't I ever say that? At any rate, that's going to give me a play set of each of those uncommons. In addition, I am going to use my Mythic to pick up a single copy of Intrepid Adversary. I think even a single copy of this does do a lot for our mono white deck, both in Historic and in Alchemy. And my 2 rares I'm going to be using to pick up copy number 2 and 3 of Old Growth Troll. I think this is the most relevant rare for the mono green deck in both the standard and Alchemy environments. Again, normally this time of year is when I would be telling you to redeem your vault and invest those cards in Historic, but right now Historic is kind of a crazy environment with Alchemy literally having changed what Historic is into a digital environment as opposed to the environment where standard cards rotate to. I think around mid-February, when Kamigawa comes out, we'll have a much better idea of what Historic is going to mean moving forward and have a better idea of how to mass invest wildcards into that. Between here and there, I plan to just use a couple one-of wildcards here and there in places that it really adds a lot of value to our fledgling historic collection. And I like spending wildcards through something like this of a fake deck or a deck that I'm working on because it allows me to think about those expenditures and those use of wildcards for a little while in a much more controlled context before I end up just going through and burning those out. But I am feeling very good about these decisions. If you are at the point of opening your vault, I think a similar use of your wildcards would be fantastic. And if you have individual questions, please feel free to comment them down below and we can discuss your collection and your options. But for now, I'm just going to hit the lovely little craft all button down here. And it's going to say, hey, redeeming 6 wildcards. And sure enough, it's 3 uncommons, 2 rares, and 1 mythic. And I'm going to hit finish deck. And ta-da, now we own all of those cards.
So one last thing I'd like to touch on before we go is
and what that does for me is
so
now my alchemy green, my standard green,
as you can see, I have made some additions to
where
the
is it down
quantities
here?
of
My
the
budget
reserve
white
wildcards.
deck
are
all set up. Budget white, I haven't set to alchemy, but I have the standard versions of cards in there.
But the packs like the Innistrad sets,
basically, I just finished 3 decks
the
with one opening the vault, which is essentially a free resource that you accumulate over time.
A few
so pretty cool stuff, guys. Again, if you got any questions, feel free to throw the details down in the comments, and I'll be glad to throw my 2 cents into your wild card.
As you can see, the total mythics is now 3. We have not used any of those at this time. For gold, I am still asking you to reserve 6 rare wildcards. We have used Solemn Simulacrum, Guardian Project, Collective Company, and Fabled Passage. For uncommons, I am asking you to continue reserving 19 uncommon wildcards. Believe me, it's worth it. We are going to get more value together. Please take this opportunity to learn from my experience. But in the interim, we have used uncommon wildcards for Leonin Vanguard and Adeliz the Cinder Wind. For commons, we are looking at a total of 24 wildcards for this budget year. And so far, we have used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those. So what is that? 20 or 15 wildcards still on reserve. The ones we have used are Command Tower and Arcane Sanctum for use in all of our Brawl decks. Terramorphic Expanse as a common in conjunction with Fabled Passage works very nicely in our red-green landfall decks. Soul Warden and Blooming Sands work so nicely in our green-white Life Gain Matters. Of course, our old friend Raging Goblin, we finished out our playset with 2 wildcards on that, and I have been using those quite frequently in our Goblins deck. I hope you are having a similar experience. To round things out, we have recently used a wildcard for Spell Pierce to increase our viability of blue in Historic, as well as Faceless Agent, which will be a common wildcard that we use essentially in every tribal deck until they possibly print something even better, which at this stage I can't even imagine what that would be. So that's our wildcard status right now. And again, if you've got any comments or questions or concerns, make sure to drop them down in the comments and I will get back to you shortly. All right, so with all that having been said, don't forget, smash the like button like Hulk would. And of course, comment and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And one last thing, myself, I'm coming to you from America, and I have noticed that about 1/3 of my viewership is coming from the US, and about 1/3 is coming from various countries. And there's about 1/3 of my viewership that is just getting lumped into other. So to let me know you got to the end of the video, throw me a comment down in there and let me know where you are watching from.